AM radio, an op-ed column, and Fox News is not enough. I want a center-right nation to fight for its soul, and its soul is represented in the arts. Its soul is represented in a world in which media is everything. AM radio is the lowest form of communication. It's tinny, it's not robust, it's not Avatar. I want Avatar. I want the right to enter the world of media to the extent and invest in media the way that the left does.
The fake media is trying to silence us, but we will not let them, because the people know the truth. The fake media tried to stop us from going to the White House, but I'm president and they're not.
You're listening to the Curt Schilling Podcast, a Breitbart.com podcast. The podcast starts now. Here's Curt with today's headlines.
Hey guys, welcome to Curt Schilling Podcast number 5. Been a good first week. I've had a lot of fun. Going to close it out in style. I've tried for years on whatever it takes to get somebody with respect on the liberal side, to the Democratic side, whatever side you want to call it, to come on and debate. And I got somebody, Rick Ungar, who is the senior political contributor for Forbes.com. He's co-host of Steele and Ungar on SiriusXM POTUS channel. He's going to join us first this morning after headlines. And we're going to talk about the border, talk about immigration, talk about illegal immigration, and hopefully get some very basic things out in the open. So at least we're talking about the same thing and arguing about the same topic as liberals continue to try and pervert the message, change the message, skew the message. But first, couple things. First off, today I want to talk about something that is, I think, an incredibly important story that has gotten nowhere near the publicity, and that is about 60 years ago, there was a war on the Korean Peninsula, and American soldiers fought and died there. Up until recently, the remains of hundreds, if not thousands, of our soldiers were left there. And that has changed. Trump, in his discussions with Kim Jong-un, apparently unsolicited, dictator of North Korea, has decided to return the remains of 200 POWs. I want you to hear President Trump talking about that.
We got back our great fallen heroes, the remains. In fact, today already 200 have been sent back. It was a great meeting, and Kim Jong-un will turn down, and I will tell, Chairman Kim will turn that country into a great, successful country. And let me tell you this. A year and a half ago, nobody thought that was possible. In fact, before I was elected, everybody assumed we were going to war. It would be a vicious war. In Seoul, you have 28 million people living 30 miles off the border. They don't even need nuclear weapons for that. They have thousands of cannons aiming right on top of Seoul. You could have lost millions and millions of people. But I got along with Kim Jong-un. I got along. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
What was it, 6-8 months ago, I was listening to the Democrats in Hollywood tell us we were going to war with North Korea. Now, not only are we not going to war, but there's potential for peace at the table. Our POWs are having their remains returned, and we may have the beginnings of a relationship with a country that would be nothing but beneficial. You won't hear that on the mainstream. And then, obviously, closer to home, this illegal immigration, border crossing, all this nightmare down at the border. House Republicans are a shit-hot mess in many, many ways with this. Not as unhinged and as in denial of reality as many on the left. I want you to listen to former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley as he talks to Tucker Carlson. And if nothing else, Tucker does not allow people to misconstrue him or to misrepresent his words, even when they try to. But listen to the defense of some of this stuff that former Governor O'Malley tries to use.
This has to do with support that the Democratic Party now has affirmatively for illegal immigration. They don't want any steps taken, meaningful ones, to stop it. They don't acknowledge it's a problem. These are new positions for the Democratic Party. Bill Clinton did not hold these views. Hillary Clinton didn't hold these views 2 years ago. But if you're honest, you got to acknowledge that the views of the party have changed.
You've forgotten that litany to mention that President Obama probably deported and interned more immigrants than any president ahead of him. So exactly. I don't accept your premise, with respect. I don't accept your premise that the Democratic Party is in favor of illegal immigration, flooding the country with drugs, or bringing in rapists or murderers.
No. But actually, that's not. I don't think they're for flooding the country with drugs or rapists or anything like that. You're overstating it. I do think they're opposed to any meaningful attempt to stopping the inflow of illegal immigration into America. And I think it's actually very hard for Democrats right now to concede that 11 million illegals in your country is a problem. Do you think it's a problem?
I don't believe that the level of immigration, even sum total, is much greater than it's been at other times in our nation's history. And in fact, border crossing in Mexico, as you know, Tucker, border crossings in Mexico are at about a 46-year low.
That's untrue. That's untrue. Oh, I'm sorry. You unveiled the fake statistic in the wrong form. No. Actually, apprehensions of illegal immigrants are up 3 times this month over this month last year. So, in fact, they're up.
Yes, but overall boarding crossings are down.
I'm talking about the apprehension of illegal aliens into this country.
See, do you notice the little twist at the end there? They'll throw out a fake number. That's their climate change 97% number right there, 46%, 46-year all-time low, which is actually not the case. That's not true. Border apprehensions are up threefold in the last 18 months. The crossings aren't down. The border apprehensions are up. But that's a twist on words. And then I'm just at a loss for words right now. But when I hear somebody of Mexican heritage or South American heritage talk trash about the United States and the things that we do here, 2 things come to mind. One, their country's history usually is one that they should keep their mouth shut. Number 2, if this is such a horrible place, why are they coming here? But listen to this is Jorge Ramos on Tucker Carlson, basically calling President Trump a racist and Americans racist. Listen to what he has to say in his take.
Maybe Mexico could help and we wouldn't need a wall. Why is that a crazy idea?
Well, I think there are 2 points right here, Tucker. One has to do with the fact that many undocumented immigrants are here in the United States because of us. They're doing many of the jobs that we don't want to do. So that's 1 point, and that's why I think we have the responsibility to legalize them, 11 million of them. Now, talking about Central Americans crossing from Mexico to the United States, I think finally the United States and Donald Trump, they realized that they need Mexico to control immigration. Maybe this is Mexico's bargaining chip. I think after President Trump said that Mexican immigrants were criminals and rapists, and after threatening to end NAFTA, and after trying to make Mexico pay for the wall, now he has realized that after all the attacks and insults, now he needs Mexico, and that's a reality.
But wait a second. I mean, without illegal aliens in the United States, Mexico would collapse. As I said, remittances are the single largest source of hard currency in Mexico. And so can we just be yet more that probably not more than fentanyl or cocaine. That's probably number 1, but we don't have the exact numbers on that. But why can't we be honest and say Mexico wouldn't exist without sending its poor here, and we should call on them to do something to control the border, and if they don't, why wouldn't we build a wall? I don't understand. Where's their obligation in this? You don't mention
I wouldn't say Mexico wouldn't exist. As a matter of fact, Mexico existed before the United States. So that's a completely different story. And then remittances are incredibly important to the Mexican economy, but also you have to remember that there are many other resources. Tourism and oil are incredibly important. So
I agree.
It is not that
drugs. I mean, drugs are
would not exist. It's not that Mexico wouldn't exist without the United States. That's absolutely false.
$26 billion annually is the number of remittance, that money's being sent by nationals and illegals alike back to Mexico. $26 billion. I mean, there's your wall money if you want to stop that one. But $26 billion is sent back, which probably is dwarfed by, as Tucker noted, the drug trade, which props up the Mexican economy. Pretty sure probably as much, if not more, than the $26 billion in remittances. Again, you have the left pouring on the narrative. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was on CNN talking about health and human services and about the gag order on facilities. And again, where was all this outrage? And you heard him say it. You heard Governor O'Malley say it. Obama deported and incarcerated more illegals than anybody, and there was no liberal outrage. There was no standing at the border with signs or outside the home of the DHS secretary. None of that happened then. Listen to Governor Cuomo, though, and again, this is who they are in a nutshell.
I believe what happened is when the president started this zero-tolerance policy in April, they never really thought it through. The reasoning from General Kelly was apparently that it would serve as a deterrent, and if they started arresting and separating, people would stop coming. That was wrong, obviously. HHS then had to start this shuttle of these 2,500 children, or whatever the number actually is, all across the country. New York State has a large foster care system, so many of the children came to New York. The foster care agencies weren't prepared. They hadn't been notified because no one expected this to happen. So they are in different foster care facilities. Different foster care facilities have different levels of services. Some of them have been placed from the foster care facilities into private foster care homes, which are basically run by parents, individuals, and they've taken them into their homes. So we're now trying to go backtrack and find out where were they sent and where have they gone, and are they getting the appropriate level of services. I sent a letter to HHS and I said, number one, I don't know why you wouldn't tell us what children have been placed in the state. We will be willing to provide mental health services, et cetera, to these traumatized children at our cost. And I've heard nothing back from HHS.
$35,000 per child to the American taxpayer. That's the expense incurred in housing an illegal immigrant for a year. Education, food, housing, clothing, all of it. Which is happening, by the way, and you're not being shown those pictures as well. But if you want to know what the fake news drama looks like, take a listen to, or sounds like, take a listen to Rachel Maddow. She's a highlighted day, really, for some of the ignorance and idiocy of the left, starting on election night when she basically had a full meltdown in front of the country. But listen to her talking about illegals, and then I have a question for you after you hear what Rachel has to say.
Realistically speaking, sending home National Guardsmen and National Guardswomen from all these states, from their border deployments, it's probably not going to make a material difference on the border. It's not going to make a material difference as to whether or not this policy of taking kids away from their parents is able to go ahead. But the fact that all these governors are doing this, and all in a rush, shows you the eagerness that these states have, that these governors have, to try to make sure they are on the record as more than just condemning this policy. They want to be on the record. They want to be known in history as public officials who actively opposed it. That's basically what's going on in the country right now, as the program itself is getting bigger and faster. Around 50 kids are being taken away from their parents every day as of last month. Right now, it's around 70 kids every day being taken away from their parents. And as 70 kids are being taken every day, yesterday, 70 kids. Today, 70 kids. Tomorrow, 70 kids.
First of all, probably not make a material difference. How in the world? That's just an arbitrary comment. She's just speaking out of her ass. Probably won't. She has no idea what taking border troops away or putting them down there will do. None whatsoever. It's just to support her point. They're going to be on the record. They're going to be on the record for history. They're going to be on the record at election time, and you cannot forget that. That's the important point to me. On the midterms, these people are going to be on record as saying, and it's a lie, by the way. 70 kids is not a day. That's bullshit. It's a made up number. They're going to be on the record, and she's going to be complaining about it. 70 kids per day. What about 1 in 30? You know what 1 in 30 is? 1 in 30 American children are homeless. 2.5 million homeless American children. And I say American, black, white, Asian, all. I'm not talking about a race or a religion. I'm talking about American citizens. 2.5 million homeless children in this country, yet I don't see Governor Cuomo or Jorge Ramos or Martin O'Malley or Rachel Maddow morally outraged by the kids sleeping on our streets now. Think about it. That we have kids that sleep on the streets and they're homeless. And we are complaining about the fact that these immigrants who are being taken care of, being fed, clothed, and educated on our dime, that's the focus? What about the 40,056 homeless veterans each night? What about them? Is anybody protesting them? Where's the outrage? Where's the moral outrage for men and women who serve this nation and are homeless and without the basic necessities to live? I did want to refer back to Governor Cuomo talking about the fact that this didn't stop. This program, this zero tolerance didn't stop them. One of the reasons it didn't stop them is because these kids aren't their children. Human trafficking and the law change under President Obama, which stated if you showed up at the border with a child, you were caught and released, saw a huge influx of people showing up at the border with children who aren't theirs. And we knew that. We knew that was going to happen. And we've seen that, and we've talked about that. But the fact of the matter is you're being told a lie. You're being given a lie. You're being narrated to. You're being told and talked down to in a way that they continue to do it. And it is embarrassing, shameful. Again, when you consider the fact that 2.5 million homeless children live in this country right now or are trying to survive in this country, 1 in 30. And Rachel Maddow basically averaged out a number to come up with 70. I'm not even sure where the hell she got it. But my guess is it's a completely bullshit number. 70 a day. And they're not being separated. They're not all being separated. And by the way, President Trump caved and gave in and passed an executive order not to separate the families, which I honestly, I don't care in the sense that it's not that I don't care about the kids. It's that whatever they need to do to get the situation and the ramifications on the border settled, I'm okay with. Leave it to the ICE people. That's what I say. Leave it to the people you've given the job of protecting our border. Let them tell us how to do it. Instead of this is armchair quarterbacking at its worst. It's armchair quarterbacking and never having played a sport is what it is, because these people don't understand and don't know what is really happening. We have Brandon Darby, we have the Cartel Chronicles, we have multiple people at the border giving us eyewitness accounts every day, and what we're hearing is so different than what you're seeing. A lot of the images you're seeing, a lot of the video you're seeing isn't even current video. It's video from the Obama administration, and that was proven and called out initially, and they're still doing it. So we're going to talk to Rick Ungar, a senior political contributor to Forbes.com and the co-host of Steele and Ungar, after the break.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about Breitbart News' Second Amendment newsletter, Downrange with A.W.R. Hawkins. Features the top gun stories of the week every week, and guest columnists like Gun Owners of America's Larry Pratt or Armed American Radio's Mark Walters. Also features a review of a firearm or a firearm accessory each week. The newsletter downloads on Thursday, comes right to your email inbox. You can subscribe at Breitbart.com/AWR.
You're listening to the Curt Schilling Podcast. Once again, here's Curt Schilling.
The senior political contributor to Forbes.com and co-host of Steele and Ungar on the SiriusXM POTUS channel, which, by the way, I do listen to. He is Rick Ungar. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Curt. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's Friday. Sun's shining. Good day.
It is. Very, very, very exciting. Hey, listen, the hot topic right now clearly is happening on our border. And I'm going to guess that at some point you and I are going to be on opposite sides of the fence, no pun intended, as we talk about this. But I'm curious to know, let me start off by asking you this. I'm going to give you two numbers, 40,056 and 2.5 million. 40,056 is the number of homeless veterans in this country every night, and 2.5 million, 1 in 30 children is homeless in this country. Why are we spending 25 hours a day and all of our oxygen on a problem that is really unchanged in the last 15 years on the border and not focusing more on the things at home?
That's actually a really, really good question. You know, part of the problem is with what happened over the past couple of weeks. It sort of brought that problem to our home, if you will. We talk, as you know, we talk about the other situation, the homeless veterans, all the problems veterans are having pretty frequently on our program. It's a pretty big deal to us. I don't necessarily think that you can't do all of it, but you're not going to ever get me to disagree that you can't talk enough about our veterans' problems.
I absolutely agree. They're not mutually exclusive, right? We have a big government. We can do more than one thing at a time and blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is I've never seen in my lifetime the moral outrage that we're seeing in the media in the last couple of weeks over something, a topic like this. And again, President Obama.
Well, you know why. You know why.
Because
it's children. It's children.
Well, but
I mean,
see,
look,
that's unchanged. That's unchanged. President Obama deported more illegal immigrants and aliens and separated more than any president in my lifetime, which we never heard about.
I'll agree with the first part of your statement. I don't think I'll agree with the second part. You're absolutely right that Obama did deport more people than any president we've had. Not true. Here's the reality about the separation, and there's so much stuff going on about this. Let me do just a very quick little history. I'll just take it back to George Bush.
Go ahead.
Bush actually followed a very similar policy that President Trump is following in terms of he used the criminal laws to deal with this problem. The one difference is that he did make exceptions for families who were coming in as a unit. He didn't separate them. Now, that's not to say that it didn't happen sometimes, because it did. Same thing with Obama. Obama used the administrative laws, which removed the criminal issue. He kept them together. In fact, he built a huge detention facility. But we do know that there were situations where they were separated. It just wasn't the policy. There was another problem in the Obama administration that nobody likes to talk about. The detention of unaccompanied minors who came across the border without a parent, or a minor who came across with somebody pretending to be a parent, and we could figure it out. There were some real treatment issues. There were some real problems with how those people were treated, and Obama did not get the grief over that he probably should have. Now we're in this situation where we.
Right? When President Obama was in office, the catch and release came into play in the sense that if you showed up at the border with a child, you didn't get arrested. You got caught and you got released.
No, that's right. He used administrative law. That's exactly right.
But Rick, the bigger problem for me is that you saw a massive rise in human trafficking, and you saw a significant. Well, I mean, the child sex trade is another horrific discussion to be had. But the fact of the matter is, people were showing up at the border with kids that weren't theirs, because that was the way to get into the country.
That is
Those
absolutely
people
true.
are still coming, right? So
they're not coming. They're not coming in the numbers some people think, but it is still happening, to be sure. You know, that's one of the things that we didn't focus on in this crisis we've had in the past couple of weeks. How good of a job are we doing in determining, who's really the parents of a child and who isn't? Because, you know that there are coyotes still hard at work making lots of money pretending to be parents. The problem is this whole event was so disorganized and so not put together well at the inception that I don't think there's a lot of confidence that we did a good job. Look, you got kids, right? Yep. You know that a 4 or 5 year old kid's not going to be able to do a very good job pretending somebody isn't mommy or daddy. So it's not that hard to figure out.
Well, but the fact of the matter is I have 4 kids, and I know that if I commit a crime, I don't get to take my kids to jail. And
no.
there's a way to cross this border legally, seeking asylum, and illegally. And these people are choosing not to seek asylum; they're choosing.
Well,
to
let me put a little light on that. We have to remember this. Prior to this policy change, you could basically, if you were trying to come across the border, you could walk up to any Border Patrol official and say, "I want asylum." And that was an acceptable way. Now, what changed in this policy was that's no longer permitted. There are 2 ports of entry where you can do that. And you and I could probably agree that it's okay to have a structure like that, but we should probably have more ports of entry.
Well, yeah, but they're walking, they're quote, and I'm using air quotes, they're going thousands and thousands of miles from South America through Mexico to get to the border. They can't find, the port of entries are it's not like they don't know where they are.
Well, they actually may not know. That's another problem. When you put this into reality, they're not reading the papers as they're making that trek. They're not getting the memos,
Right. Well, but also we talk about illegals in that sense and I'm not saying that they're dumb or misinformed, but at the same time we hear about, the 800,000 DACA recipients, which liberals would have us believe, and I don't know if I'm classifying you as a liberal in that sense, but 800,000 DACA recipients who we're trying to be taught are disproportionately valedictorians and Medal of Honor recipients. If you listen to the talk about that, but I want to get to probably the heart of the issue, and one of those is the crime rate of illegals in this country. And by the way, I do appreciate the fact that you're the first person I've talked to who can differentiate between immigrant and illegal immigrant, because they are two very different things.
Very different.
Yes. But the fact of the matter is, the U.S. Sentencing Commission, the Center for Immigration Studies, did a study, and in between 2011 and 2016, convicted federal crimes, 44.2% were not U.S. citizens, 21.4% if immigration crimes are excluded. And my point is this: the crime rates amongst illegals is in cities that are areas where non-citizens are a much larger share of convictions than their 8.4% share of the adult population, include 42% kidnapping, 31%. The numbers are off the charts, right? I mean, and I get a very hard pushback from the left in the sense that all of these aren't criminals; these are good people. Just like President Trump, who didn't call all Mexicans racists and rapists, he said that those are people that are coming across. The fact of the matter is, an illegal alien killing Kate Steinle murder didn't have to happen. Every single crime committed by an illegal is a crime we could have prevented. And that's tens of hundreds of thousands of crimes a year.
Just listening to your statistics, which I haven't heard before, that is very interesting. I look at what happened to Kate Steinle, and yes, you can absolutely make that argument. If that person hadn't been here, then she'd still be alive today. And that is persuasive. On the other hand, does this not come down more? I'm going to make a comparison that may seem weird, but you'll get it. Does it not come down to how we deal with the issue? We can't go in assuming that anybody who wants to be in this country, we're a nation of immigrants, legal immigrants. I absolutely grant you. But immigrants. So you can't assume that everybody's bad, but there can be systems and here's the comparison I'm going to make. About once a month, I will travel around New York City where I live, and I will stop at unemployment offices. Why? Because I want to see what's really going on there. And you come up with something really interesting. You go inside that office and you look at the people standing in line. 9 cases out of 10, they have that worried, concerned, beaten down look on their face, which says to you, all right, this person's really having a problem. But you go outside and you see the people out there playing stickball in the street and smoking cigarettes and laughing and having a good time. And you go, why the hell are they here? They could be working. Right? They're here taking advantage. You can absolutely sense the difference. And then I say, why isn't there somebody here taking notes and going, all right, these people over here, they really need our help. And we're Americans. We'll give them that help. These people, I know if I ask them a few questions, I'm going to figure out in no time that they're trying to scam the system. But we don't do that. And it's ridiculous. You got a similar situation on the border. It wouldn't be that hard if we would just organize this properly to figure out, if this guy's a bad guy, we don't want him here. Who wants bad guys here?
Well, yeah, I mean, the common sense has been removed from all arguments because nobody wants, I would argue, Democrats alike, nobody wants drug dealers and murderers and rapists crossing the border.
Right.
But there has to be the only way to figure out how to process that is to have a border. And you're listening to people like Nancy Pelosi, who comes out and basically she is not for anything anywhere along the border. I mean, she's I hate giving her any airtime, but some of the stuff that she says just it defies logic. And the feeling
real about it.
I was listening to Tucker Carlson talk to former Governor O'Malley, former Maryland Governor O'Malley, and Governor O'Malley was trying to twist what Tucker had said. And Tucker basically said, "Listen, I'm not saying that you're after nobody coming across. What I'm saying is you guys meaning the Democrats want no rules to apply to anybody, and it would be, if it was up to Democrats, it would be the entire border would be catch and release."
All right, here's the problem, though. Here's the problem, and we have to be real about this if we ever really want to try and solve this issue. Both sides play this game. Both sides, Republicans, Democrats, because they shift this tennis ball back and forth over the net looking for a political advantage. Here, let me take a shot at one of my own, okay? When Senator Schumer made his remark the other day when he said, when actually Ted Cruz, and I read the bill, Ted Cruz, a Republican, actually came up with a pretty sensible suggestion to ending this crisis. Dianne Feinstein was prepared to sign on to it. And Senator Schumer says, oh, come on, we can't get this done quickly in the United States Congress. This is about the president. It's on the president. He was playing politics, to which I wrote on Twitter, if Senator Schumer plays politics with these children, I'll be looking for another party. But they can't help themselves, and both sides do it. They look to see who's going to get the advantage. And this is the problem. This is why in all these years, literally generations, we can't solve this problem because it's not a problem they want to solve.
Well, I also think, Rick, I also think that the Republican Party I grew up with no longer exists. I don't think
you're absolutely right about that.
I don't think that the people in D.C. represent the American people anymore. I think they represent
You're absolutely
themselves.
Right. They represent themselves.
Right. And it's one of the, I got to tell you, it's one of the reasons why I think
protecting
Trump
their phony baloney job.
Right. No, that's exactly right. And I have a scary or a worried feeling that we're going to continue to see more exposure from this FBI and DOJ investigation that is going to show corruption to levels we never dreamed of. And
we might.
Yeah. And I think that trust in the system is quickly being eroded. And
I think that happened a long time ago, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I think for people that were put effort into finding. I mean, I've had to work to find the news for 2 years because it's just not coming out on the surface. I'm not going to listen to Fox or CNN or anybody because I'm not going to get the news. I'm going to get what the personality on television wants me to believe is the news, and they're going to be part of the story. But now we're starting to see the masses get exposed to things that you and I knew 2 years ago, and I think it's shocking in many ways. And the problem for me as a conservative and a Trump supporter is he makes it hard for me, harder than it should be. I wish somebody would get a handle on his Twitter account and at least let somebody proofread him before he sends them out.
You know how I sum that up? It's really interesting. If you listen to our show, you will know that I, on occasion, support something that the president does. I don't play that game. If he does something I agree with, I'll call him out for doing something good. The problem is, and here's a great example, I supported the president in the summit with Kim, right? I thought that better to be talking than not be talking. So whatever his reasons, whatever his rationale, I'm glad he did it. And I said so. And I supported him. And then he comes out with that tweet saying, sleep tight, America. We're no longer, under threat of nuclear. And I'm like, dude, why do you spoil it every time?
I know. And on the flip side, like I'll be saying, oh my God, here's the thing I love about him. I knew him for about 10 years before he ran for president. But the one thing I always knew is you never have to guess where you stand with him. Right? I mean, he's very open.
I don't know if I agree with that because
I can
so
promise
frequently.
you, it's the day is long. I guarantee you. It's one thing I know about the man. There will never be confusion as to how he feels about you. He might change his opinion in 24 hours or 24 minutes. But
he feels that
you
way
never
at the
have
moment.
to guess. Yeah. No, and I get. But see, Rick, that part of that is, if you remember, prior to this last election, we were screaming for somebody that wasn't establishment. We were screaming for a person in the White House who wasn't a politician. And unfortunately, guys, this is what it looks like. This is what, in many ways, I've had those fantasies in my head of running for office or running for president. And I see a guy who acts probably almost exactly like I would from a tweet perspective, for sure. I mean, I'm very reactionary.
Kurt, we like you, Kurt, but we're probably not going to make you president.
Right, and that's the thing is he is not polished. He's not going to be polished. He's not a good public speaker. He never has been. I mean, he doesn't have all the nuances that a practiced politician has. But we were begging for that, and we got it, and now the left hates it.
Well, I got to say, I do have a slightly different view on that. You don't have to be a practiced politician or anything else to really respect the office of the presidency and to behave. And I'm not saying that there's some script you have to follow when you're president of the United States, but you should always act presidential, and you should always be president of all the people. And I say that to every Democrat too. I don't feel he comes through on that. You know, the thing about Trump, it's not his policies. Look, I am inclined to disagree with a lot of his policies, but you know what? He won. He became president. He gets to push his policies. That's the way it works. So I get that, and I can criticize his policies if I don't like them, hopefully respectfully, because he is the president. But that's not the problem. Where Americans who have trouble with Donald Trump have trouble is he scares us because of the way he behaves.
Yeah, but see, you take him literally and not figuratively.
How can we not? He's the president. I mean, you know him. I get what you're saying.
But hold on. I get that. No. I understand what you're saying, but you know as well as I do, he's horrible at the sarcasm game, but he still tries to play it. And the media gets the run. The media gets the run.
That actually is fair. That is fair. Yeah. There are a lot of things that he says I can tell he's trying to be funny.
Right.
He's not good at it, but he's trying to be. And I don't criticize him when he does that. I'll say, all right, let's not get stupid here and pretend like he really meant it, because he was trying to be funny. But
well,
when
that's
you
one of the
think
reasons
a guy
why you don't get on. That's one of the reasons why you don't get on CNN more, because you are rational and you will look at Rachel.
Well, there's another reason I don't go on CNN. I will not do the wall of hate thing.
Right. No, that's
not what I do.
It feeds them. No, and I wish you had more of a voice internationally as well, because like I said, I listen to you, and one of the things I enjoy. I would love to make this kind of a weekly visit if you're up to it.
Done.
Just because I
love
think
to.
There's
under one condition.
Yes.
One condition. You have to show me the bloody sock.
I don't have it.
You don't have it?
No, it was in the Hall of Fame.
Oh.
And by the way, the bloody sock in the Hall of Fame was not the first one. The first one I threw away. I wasn't even thinking about it after the game. So
is that right?
Somebody in the clubhouse probably picked that one up.
Oh my gosh!
Hey, listen, Rick. Thank you very much, and I look
pleasure.
forward to
we'll do it
again
soon.
Senior political contributor to Forbes.com. He's the co-host of Steele and Ungar on the SiriusXM POTUS channel. And honestly, I would tell you as a conservative, as a Republican, give the guy a chance. He's much more rational, obviously much more even-keeled than 99.9% of the irrational folks on the other side.
Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlow.
Why did we see some of the Republican kissing of Mark Zuckerberg that was taking place?
I called it kissing the ring, because I felt like every single person practically had to kiss the ring of this guy, who wants to do nothing except get all those people out of office. So, bizarre behavior from the Republicans.
Breitbart News Daily, weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Patriot 125.
We want to hear from you. Tweet the show at Garrick38. Once again, here's Curt Schilling.
Joining me now is a fellow Breitbart employee, Tom Ciccotta. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Hey, Kurt. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Listen, you wrote a really fascinating article. It's not a long, in-depth piece, but it calls to mind something that I've been wondering about. And it's a story about a woman, Mary Zolkowski, who was sentenced to jail, 45 days in jail for falsely claiming she was raped. It was a fake hate crime. And I got to thinking about it. And I looked at the numbers, and there's a website called fakehatecrimes.org, and it kind of gives you numbers. And I started to think about it. I went back to you remember the Tawana Brawley case and all the things that happened around the Duke lacrosse? You remember how long that consumed the news cycle? I mean, it was there for a while, only to find out that it was all false. And I guess what I was saying is, when I looked at the number of fake hate crimes and hoaxes that come out monthly, it's not a giant number, especially in a country of 300 million people. But the media, the oxygen it sucks out of the media can be almost paralyzing. And I say that in the light, during the election we saw, hate crimes here and there, people saying these people beat us, and I'm wondering why there isn't, because I look at a fake hate crime as it's almost like a corrupt police officer. The damage is far outweighs the person and the lasting effect it has. And I ran into something here with Adam Jones and the Baltimore Orioles, who claimed that a Boston fan called him the N-word, and I called him out and called him a liar because it didn't happen. Because I know in this day and age, especially in Boston, somebody uses the N-word in public in a baseball park, it's going to be recognized, especially with social media. But why don't we see a change in the law to make it very dangerous to falsely accuse someone of a crime? Because those lacrosse players, their lives were ruined. And we've seen, and Michael Brown, the man that Darren Wilson, Officer Darren Wilson killed, that was a lie. The whole thing was a lie. That officer's life is ruined. But the beat goes on. Why aren't people being penalized more? And I look at this as a significant problem as we move forward.
Kurt, I'm a law student, and I wish I had a better answer to this question. But one of the things that immediately comes to mind is that there's really no consequences for making up these false claims. Obviously, I think a lot of us want to cultivate an environment where people who are victims of legitimate crimes feel comfortable enough to go to the authorities or to the media, whoever they want to talk about their experiences with. But and that's great. But aside from that, there's really no consequences. So like you're saying, whether it's falsely reported hate crimes, we saw a couple of those on campuses, like at the University of Missouri, it became this whole thing, or false claims of sexual misconduct, like here with the Mary Zolkowski story, which I've been covering for a little over a year since this first came out. And it's really important because while we're having important conversations about changes that need to take place with regards to sexual violence, we need to definitely have a conversation about even if these are more rare instances, what is justice with regards to false accusations? I don't know if you saw this, but this was November 2017. A woman named Emily Linden, or she was a Teen Vogue. I think she's still a columnist for Teen Vogue. She wrote, "Sorry, this is on Twitter. If some innocent men's reputations have to take a hit in the process of undoing the patriarchy, that's a price I'm absolutely willing to pay." Now, she got slammed for this tweet, to be fair, but there is this mindset where it's like people are willing to take down a couple innocent men along the way if it means getting the bad guys. So it's a twisted perception of justice.
Here's the bigger issue for me. This whole Me Too movement and Time's Up thing, it is being perpetrated on us by a group of people who protected pedophiles and sexual assaulters their entire careers. And now we're supposed to now we're supposed to believe that there's some sort of moral outrage from these people?
I think there's certainly a level. There's certainly a sprinkling of virtue signaling in there from people who know that attaching themselves to the Me Too movement is going to get them, social praise. And I think it's harder than it should be to kind of distinguish who's genuine and who isn't.
Right.
And
which
honestly,
is dangerous.
I wish at the end of the day, it is dangerous.
That's the point, Tom. That to me, that's exactly where your article put me in the sense that. That's not the first one I've read. It won't be the last one I've read. I've read a lot more. And again, if you go to fakehatecrimes.org, you'll see they're listed item by item. And many, many, many of them are fake race crimes, fake hate crimes from a racial perspective. And to me, it paints a narrative and creates a picture that isn't real. That yes, there's always going to be racism in this country because we have the Constitution and the freedom to be who we want to be, and we afford people the right to be real idiots. But the fact of the matter is, the fake stuff, like you reported, to me makes the problem appear to be much larger than it actually is.
There's one angle here that I think a lot of people forget. That's why I tossed it at the end of my article for anybody who wants to take a look after they're listening to your show, is there was a report that came out from the U.S. Sentencing Commission last year that revealed that men receive longer sentences than women who commit the same crime. So a man and a woman commits the same exact crime. The man is most likely going to get a longer sentence. So people don't even realize that when a false accusation of sexual violence is made against a man, the system is already kind of tilted against him. There's already this kind of bias.
I never realized that.
So it makes the situation so much more complex and so much more unfair. And the sad thing is, I think at the beginning, the Mary Zolkowski story was receiving some traction, was receiving some Facebook shares, it was receiving some attention. My most recent article didn't receive. I know we had a couple articles on Breitbart about this story, but I wish this stuff really had more attention. There are some legal nonprofits like the Innocence Project that work to clear people who have been wrongfully accused, and there's money flowing into stuff like that. But I think now that we've had the Me Too conversation, I think it's time. Let's have a conversation about this problem, about real consequences for people who have made these accusations.
I got the impression from some of the Hollywood people that they were saying, listen, I get it, but hold on a second. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here, in the sense that everybody that says they've been assaulted is not telling the truth. Now, I don't want to take away from even one person who's been assaulted, but at the same time, you know, the comment you made earlier, which is true, there are women, there are people, there are movements who are okay with 1 or 2 or 3 lives being ruined if it gets them to the end goal, as long as it's not their life.
There's this whole sense of, I mean, Hillary Clinton famously had this whole believe all sexual assault victims thing on our website that she had to take down because of the accusations against her husband. I mean, it doesn't hold up to the slightest degree of scrutiny. You examine that claim, believe all victims. Well, that doesn't really make any sense, because then you can accuse the person that is making this wild claim, this wild accusation, or this wild statement that you should believe all victims. Accuse them of sexual assault and see how they respond to everybody wanting to believe what you've just accused them of. It just doesn't hold up. So there's definitely some unresolved issues here regarding how we deal with this issue, and it's an important one, and I'm not exactly sure how we can bring attention to it more, but I'm going to keep writing these stories. And
I was going to say,
glad that you're talking about these issues.
I was going to say, Tom, your article, and I would tell you, the fakehatecrimes.org is the website. You can check it out. But your article is one that, and that angle is one that needs to continue to be pushed. And I'm glad that we're pushing it at Breitbart, because it needs to be out there. It needs to be, we need to be able to discern the real crimes from the BS, because the BS is the stuff that's damaging, I think, more so than anything. But hey, listen, appreciate it, man. I'd love to have you back.
Yeah, Kurt, anytime. I'd love to come back. Thanks, Kurt.
All right, pal. You take care. That's Tom Ciccotta from Breitbart. Thank you, guys. It's been a great. This has been a great first week. I've had a blast. Oliver North, Sonny Johnson, James Dellingpole, everybody that has been on this week. I've enjoyed it. This was fun with me, with Rick Ungar today. We'll close out the week. Our loser of the week is a runaway. Time Magazine ran a cover and is running a cover of President Trump standing over a small Latino child who is crying. It's a very sad picture, and it says, "Welcome to America." Come to find out, the young lady crying in the picture was never, ever separated from her mother. And just another example of anything to achieve the goal for the left. And once I got to tell you, if conservatives become that unhinged, it's going to be a dangerous place. But Time Magazine is a clear-cut loser. And the winner, never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be saying this. The winner for me today is, I'm not going to say Kim Jong-un, I'm just going to say North Korea, returning the unasked for offer of the return of over 200 POWs, remains from the Korean War. Hopefully will give significant number of families some closure, which they absolutely deserved long before today. I'm not happy it took this long, but it's happening, and for that I thank God, and I thank the North Koreans. Never thought I'd have to say thank you, North Korea, but there are winners today. Been a great week, guys. Listen, I appreciate all the support. Appreciate you guys. If you're listening, check in. I do a Periscope before the show every day around 9 a.m. Eastern, and then I do a post-show Periscope just to catch up with some of the more dedicated folks around here. Tune in if you want, but otherwise, have a great weekend. God bless. I'll catch you guys on Monday. Diamond and Silk next week.
Breitbart News Tonight with Joel Pollack and Rebecca Mansour.
The real thing that the left is angry about is they're like, how could you allow these Russian memes? Somebody saw a meme and then they decided they had to vote for Trump. Or it must have been fake news. And by fake news, they mean conservative websites. Come on. But this is what the left thinks. Fake news. And by fake news, what they mean is shut down Breitbart.
Breitbart News Tonight. Weeknights starting at 9 p.m. East on SiriusXM Patriot 125.